Okay, let's move on to diversity in animals. So, um, where do we start? So, animals are multicellular, they are eukaryotic, and they are heterotrophic. What does it mean to be multicellular? They are composed of more than a single cell. It kind of makes sense because just like humans, um, we are multicellular. There are brain cells, skin cells, um, other kinds of cells that work specific functions that keep our body um, living. I guess that's the word. Yeah. Anyways, so we are complex organisms because we are multicellular. So as well as animals. So they are eukaryotic. Um, they are not prokaryotes. Prokaryotes, I suppose, they are associated with bacteria. Eukaryotes, under eukarya, domain eukarya, there are animals, plants, humans, among other things, um, among other complex organisms. And they are heterotrophic, just like humans as well. They do not absorb uh, energy from the sunlight, unlike plants. Instead, they feed on other organisms. They're either carnivores or herbivores. They feed on plants, or they feed on both, which makes them omnivores. They feed on both other organisms and plants. So animals can be vertebrates or invertebrates. Well, there are vertebrates and invertebrates. The only difference is the presence of a backbone. So by the prefix in, that means there is no vertebral column, unlike vertebrates. So more on that later. What are the features of a chordate? So there is a notochord, there are pharyngeal pouches, there's a hollow dorsal nerve cord, and a postnatal tail. And yes, regarding coelomate, we have eucoelomate, acoelomate, and pseudocoelomate. This one, from the prefix pseudo, it means fake, so fake coelomate. Okay. What's the difference between invertebrates and vertebrates? For invertebrates, well, let's talk about first certain species that are under that specific category. So for invertebrates, we have sponges. I think this is Porifera, flatworms, uh, platyhelminthes, roundworms, nematoda, segmented worms, annelida, cnidarians, sea seahorse. I'm not sure if I remember it correctly. Um, arthropoda, arthropods, cockroaches, insects, spiders. Uh, you easily think that spiders are arthropods because in Minecraft there's an enchantment called Bane of Arthropods, and if you have that kind of enchantment, you can more easily kill spiders. So that's one way to remember it as a Gen Z, I guess. Anyways, mollusca. What what are organisms under mollusca? Mollusks, clams, I guess. Yeah, clams. Echinodermata, um, sea anemone. I'm not sure if I remember correctly either. Okay, for vertebrates, we have bony fish, cartilaginous fish, amphibians, birds, reptiles, and mammals. We are under the category of mammals. Okay, so for flatworms, platyhelminthes, they breathe through skin. They are bilaterally symmetrical. They have, uh, they're basically classified as acoelomate, basically no body cavity. Their gastrovascular cavity for oxygen, there's only one opening. And yes, their gastrovascular cavity is for oxygen and waste circulation. So you consume from one opening, you also release waste products from the same opening. So that's for flatworms. Why? Because why does this happen? That's because there are no respiratory and excretory organs in flatworms. And yes, they are smart enough, as simple as they are, um, in terms of having only a gastrovascular cavity. Their eyes are able to respond to light in order to navigate. So I guess they are smart enough to escape light because they know that it's dangerous if there is light. I think that's the case in some scenarios. That's also the reason why cockroaches, they're very fast. They try to escape when there's light because they know that they've been detected. Because again, they are nocturnal creatures. So yeah, it kind of makes sense. So there are no segments, unlike annelids. Rather, they have a spongy connective tissue called mesenchyme. So they basically constitute parenchyma and fill space between organs. So they don't have a skeletal and circulatory system either. So yes, what are related species? Planaria, regeneration. Polyclad, they're decomposers. Schistosoma, they're parasitic blood flukes. This is a more common term. Uh, so yes, they're parasitic, they cause a disease. Also tapeworm. They are parasitic and they're usually located in the intestines. What's this? Schistos. I'm pretty sure this is a word describing a disease caused by schistosoma. Okay. Roundworms or nematodes. They have a complete digestive system. So they have a mouth, an intestine, and an anus. They have a round body shape, but that roundness, uh, their body cavity is pseudocoelomate. It's classified as pseudocoelomate because although it looks round, what's inside it is actually just uh, hollow space because where does it say that? Um, well, it kind of makes sense that because they're knowing that they have a pseudocoelomate type of body cavity, the roundness, there's basically hollow space within that roundness. So what's the purpose of the pseudocoelom? Basically to support internal organs and facilitate nutrient distribution. So to move efficiently along solid surfaces. So they also have a simple nervous system, a nerve ring and nerve cords. Nerve ring, the pharynx. Nerve cords, the body, sensory motor, and motor. Okay. Mode of nutrition. There are two ways. They either suck in nutrients or they undergo diffusion. Diffusion is basically gas exchange in the atmosphere and they breathe across the entire body. Um, they're basically, I'm not sure if you call it the skin, but basically the surface of a roundworm is capable of diffusion. So yeah, molecules move from an area of higher concentration to lower concentration. That's basically the concept of diffusion. So they can detect light in order to avoid predation, just like flatworms. And yes, what's their mode of reproduction? Some reproduce asexually, some reproduce sexually. For asexual reproduction, some are hermaphroditic. Uh, I'm not sure what it means anymore by stock knowledge, but uh, it's associated with the idea um, defined in the word parthenogenesis. For sexual reproduction, on the other hand, Most flatworm, sorry, most, yeah, no, no, no. Most roundworms have sex organs. So there's sperm and egg, and they both generate a zygote. They together generate a zygote. And yes, what are related species? We have Ascaris. It's a parasite. Um, the disease is called, caused by this, is called Ascariasis. We have pinworms. They're also a parasite. Eczema is the disease. Trichinella. Uh, what is this? Rain? I'm not sure what this is, but it's a food parasite. So the disease is trichinosis. We have Loa Loa. It's a parasite also. It's usually in the eyes. So it's an eye worm. So at one point, it is, as crazy as it seems, it is possible to have worms in your eye, all for the reason of consuming raw meat, meat that is contaminated with roundworms. And those roundworms are able to reach the eyes coming from your digestive system. That is possible, if I'm not mistaken, from what I read before. This review was made a long time ago, so in the language of gaming, I'm kind of rusty. So, anyways, for segmented worms or annelids, they have a coelomate type of body cavity or eucoelomate. So there is a complete circulatory and digestive system. They exhibit bilateral symmetry, and the segments are for three things: locomotion for movement, reproduction, and digestion. They are trypoblastic, they respire through body surfaces, and the excretory organs are called nephridia. So, what is their use in nature? They usually have, I mean, not usually, most most of the time, if not all the time, uh, segmented worms have a mutualistic relationship with soil. They make soil quality better. Um, so the castings make good fertilizers. And yes, they help decompose organic material and they aid in soil aeration. Aeration, this is expanded water and nutrients penetration. Related species, what we have earthworms, polychaete, and fanworm. They are part of the food web. So they're very crucial in feeding small organisms, but definitely not smaller than these guys. Um, we have leeches for bloodletting therapy, but usually leeches are parasitic if they're not controlled. Um, okay, I think I showed this in the previous vid, just the one after this. I mean, before this. Okay, we'll skip that. Let's go here. So, what's the difference between what I taught in a few pages back? Well, this one is the teacher's um, take on the lesson. Earlier, it's the student's take on the lesson. I remember we were tasked to make presentations on the topics. So yeah, we're gonna talk about the same things here for the next minutes to come, but yeah, I guess it's supposed to enforce the knowledge that was already disseminated earlier. Okay, so diversity in animals. General characteristics of animals: they are multicellular, they are eukaryotic, and they are heterotrophs. Um, Sponges, they are sessile suspension feeders. What does it mean to be sessile? So I guess in one aspect you call it's synonymous with the idea of being stagnant. You stay in one certain place. You don't move normally um, from point A to B. But technically, they're still animals. They're not plants. Hence the word sessile. So, how do they feed? How do they get their food? So there are certain parts. One is the spongicoel and the other is the osculum. So what's the spongicoel? Basically, sorry, what's going on? Okay. So the spongicoel is the central cavity where water from the pores, basically, what's this in English again? They cross. Um, yeah, from outside to inside. They cross from outside to inside. And the osculum is the larger opening where water flows out of the spongicoel. So why do they need to involve water in how in their method of feeding? Basically, their food is within the water. So in a sense, they're trying to filter the food out of the water that they're trying to bring towards them. So the osculum is what uh, causes the exit of water that is absorbed or let in by the spongicoel. Okay, so Nidarians, phylum Nidaria, we have the polyp and medusa. Um, I remember making a mistake in the exam. Uh, I'm not sure, even now, I'm not sure which one is floating, which one is stationed at the ground. I'm not sure. Okay, nidocytes. So these are cells that define phylum Nidaria. Sling. Let's go to hydrozoans. So this is a class under Nidaria. We're still talking about Nidaria, by the way. Um, Examples, we have jellyfish, shells, and corals. Hydra fusca, they exist only in the polyp form. They asexually reproduce by budding. So outgrowths pinch off from the parent and they become new organisms, separate independent organisms. Some exhibit sexual reproduction, and this is by forming resistant zygotes. So they are dormant until conditions improve. Okay, Schifozoans. This is another class under Nidaria. They are in other words called true jellyfishes. So Medusa. The Medusa is the dominant stage in their life cycle. Most live among plankton as jellies. Um, the coastal types usually go through a stage as small polyps, and ocean types, on the other hand, lack a polyp stage. Okay, cubozoans, in other words called box jellyfishes, anthozoa, corals, and sea anemones. They occur only as polyps in the polyp form. They are solitary or colonial. They have a hard external exoskeleton. And yes, coral reefs. The coral reefs are located in tropical seas, I guess, and they provide a habitat for many species. Okay. Okay. Let's go back to flatworms, like what I discussed earlier. Platyhelminthes, they live in marine, freshwater, and damp terrestrial habitats. They are free-living, parasitic species. Uh, Again, one of them, shoot, I forgot already. Um, what I have in mind is supposed to be classified as a roundworm. That's Ascaris. Anyways, um, so from the name, they have thin bodies and they are flattened dorso-ventrally. They are trypoblastic and they are acoelamites. They have no coelomate, which makes sense because they're flat. So protonephridia functions in water balance. And yes, for the free-living flatworms, we have turbellarians. For the parasitic ones, we have schistosoma and tapeworms. So they live in or on other animals. The suckers attach internal organs to the internal organs or surface. And yes, they have a tough covering to shield themselves from any harm, concerning harm. Okay, annelids, little rings. The body is a series of fused rings. Segmented worms live in the sea, which is kind of terrifying. Um, I thought you could escape worms by going to the sea, but no. There are segmented worms that live in the sea. So, new fear unlocked, I guess. Anyways, um, some live in most live in freshwater habitats, and others live in damp soil. So this is something that we're most familiar with, worms that live beneath the soil. So for coelamates, yes, they are coelamates. There are two major groups, Polychaeta and Oligochaeta. For Polychaeta, each segment has a parapoidia. This functions in locomotion as gills. These are supplied by blood vessels and they have multiple chaetae. The chaetae is also associated with exhibiting locomotion, helping exhibit locomotion. For Oligochaeta, we have earthworms and leeches. So we have the funworm, the earthworm, and leeches. Okay, let's go to mollusks. Mollusks are marine, but some live on freshwater and land. Maybe classify them as hybrid, I guess. In that context, they are soft bodied, so most make a hard protective shell that is made out of calcium carbonate or CaCO3. Others have reduced internal shell or they lost their shell completely. So we have slugs, squids, and octopi. Okay. For chitons, they have an oval shaped body. They have 8 dorsal plates, and their body is unsegmented. They cling to shore rocks during low tide, and their foot acts as a grip and a creep. I'm not sure what this means. Okay. Maybe disregard this. I'm not really sure what this means, but um, I guess they have a mutualistic relationship with rocks. I'm not sure. The radula scrapes off algae from the rocks that it attaches to. Okay. Gastropods. They're mostly marine, and some of them live in freshwater environments. Some live on land. Garden snail and slugs. How about bivalves? So we have under this category clams, oysters, mussels, and scallops. So the shell is divided into two valves, hinged at the mid dorsal. What's this? Mid dorsal line. They are powerful. Uh, I hate my handwriting. What is this? Adductor muscles to protect the soft body. Anyways, let's move to cephalopods. Cephalopods are active predators. They use their tentacles in order to grasp prey. They what is this? Beak to bite, poison in saliva. Okay, so they're poisonous. So I think one example of a cephalopod is the octopus, the organism that has 3 hearts. So the foot is modded into muscular excurrent siphon. So this is a part of the tentacles. What's another example of cephalopod? We have the chambered nautilus. Uh, this is the only cephalopod that has an external shell. Okay, that's it for this video. Finally, we're finished with grade 12 fourth quarter biology. Thanks for watching.